I'm at my international headquarters at the Biltmore Hotel in Coral Gables. Every Monday meeting we do a seminar for my staff. Most everyone shows up. We go through a lot of things. This morning I went through the X Factor and we had some discussion on it, and I wanted to talk to you about kinematic sequence this morning. And I found a problem with the kinematic sequence taught in biomechanics. Now, the X Factor book was kind of a preliminary lead into biomechanics. By the time I wrote that first article on the X Factor was 1992. Then I did further cover pieces, did things on the Golf Channel, did a VHS tape, and then I wrote the X Factor book, which came out in 1996. We went over that book today, and I mentioned to my staff that at the World Golf Teaching Congress that was held this year in the United States, I did a presentation on the X Factor, and Phil Cheatham was there, who's a top biomechanics expert in golf. And I talked to Phil afterwards, and I said, you know, I think there's a mistake in kinematic sequence. And he said, well, what's that? And I said, well, we talk about the pelvis, the rib cage, the arms, and the hands. That's a four-part sequence to striking the golf ball. And it's pretty normal in other hitting sports as well. But in golf, I thought we're missing a real key component, and that would be the knees. The knees to the feet. So the first thing that really moves in the golf swing are the knees. And specifically, that left knee tends to move away from the right knee. And in doing so, as your knees move, there's a push down into the ground called ground reaction force. And that's something that I didn't talk about in the X Factor, but I did talk about the sit-down move and pushing down into the ground as a very big source of power in the golf swing. So what I'm talking about here is as we swing the golf club, the movements are led by the lower body, the knees. The knees flex and move before the pelvis. So to me, the correct kinematic sequence should start lower than the pelvis. It should start down here, because that's where I think the golf swing really does start. Now, I saw Phil at the golf show just a month ago, and he said he's working on it. So it's something I wrote about in my latest book called Build Your Swing, and I wrote that the kinematic sequence should include the knees first, then the pelvis, then the shoulders, then the arms, and then the hands. I think that's the correct motion. I think that's the way that we should be looking at kinematic sequence in the golf swing. Give this a like if you think this is good. Get back to me, send me some notes, some ideas. Let me know what you think. But that's the way I think the golf swing should be perceived when we look at it in biomechanics.